100% what happened.
All right, guys. Quitting time. Peace out.
Yeah,
See you bitches tomorrow.
I don't know what traffic report it was. I was listening to like 3 different ones.
There's also an accident on 10 eastbound.
One guy was like...
Or westbound.
Yeah, they're supposed to be done at 5 a.m., but they're not. He was like, yeah, they are. They're just sitting there.
Yeah, they're done.
Because, like, I kept driving, I was like, okay, where's the construction? Like, it's right here. Just like that.
Let me go see if Condon's ready.
Run with us on a John Deere Gator UTV with effortless four-wheel drive at the flip of the switch and our smoothest shifting transmission yet.
Bam. I'll show you that slowly after the show when I have time.
Search John Deere Gator for more.
All right, we're ready to go, Haldane. We are up and ready.
Okay.
You can listen to me weeknights from 11 p.m. to midnight on Talk 107.3 FM with a new flavor of talk in Baton Rouge.
A heat advisory has been issued again today for heat index values that are set to climb to near 110 degrees this afternoon. Be sure to drink plenty of water and take frequent breaks while in the sun working outside. A few showers will move through this afternoon for areas north and east of Baton Rouge. Any showers that do come out will only offer temporary heat relief. Overnight temperatures will be in the mid-70s. Tuesday will be a repeat of Monday with afternoon temperatures in the low 90s and the heat index in the triple digits.
.638 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Fresh out of the field with a live update on what was going on I-12. Taylor Sharp in the studio. What's happening, brother?
So much. The construction that never was is what we're going to call it.
Okay.
An hour Denham to Millerville this morning.
An
when
hour.
I get to Millerville, 2 cool gray Dodge Rams sitting there with a bunch of traffic cones, just giving all the people driving through a big FU going to work this morning.
Wow.
Not a single construction vehicle.
You're already hot. Okay.
Not a single construction
All right.
vehicle in sight.
Jeez. All right. What are the odds? What are the odds that they finished construction and just went home, forgot to remove the barrels?
That looks like what happened. Like there was no construction going on. It was like that from O'Neill to Millerville.
Unreal. Well, welcome aboard. Clearly, you would have been right on time had it not been for the construction. But that's what we've been dealing with so far this morning. Joining us now, as he did last Monday, and it was such a raving success that we decided to do this again, Richard Condon. What's happening, Rich?
I'm well, buddy, and yourself?
I'm doing great, brother. Doing great.
Kind of ticked off a little bit, though.
What? You?
Well, yes, now another outlet came out because we're just about, 5 days away before the college football season starts.
Week 0.
And you can check out the Rainbows taking on the Bruins 2:30 Saturday on ESPN.
Looking forward to it.
Well, Bleacher Report has come out with the rudest fans in college football. They normally do it. And, yes, I got to congratulate the LSU Nation. Still number 1.
Beautiful.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Do we deserve that?
Well, the more people you have that do more festive things are going to aggravate more people. So, yes, they do. But it's a good thing because you know what, Brian? Over the years, I always said the University of Florida was the worst. No question about it. Been 3
They're
times.
terrible.
The worst fans in the world up until September 2019. There are no worse fans in the world than the University of Texas fans.
Oh.
And that's why I can't stand the fact that they're going to join the conference. You've never seen so many women with beehive hairdos covered with jewelry. Unbelievable. And they haven't done a damn thing. Texas is like Ole Miss. Oh, and by the way, Ole Miss makes the list too.
Good.
So does Alabama.
Good.
Alabama comes in there. So does Texas. But, Brian, the rudest fans, number 1 is Texas, number 2 is Florida, and number 3 is Alabama. But they also
I'm
got
torn
some,
on the Bama part of that.
Look, listen, they got Ole Miss at 22, they got Auburn at 15, Arkansas at 13, Georgia at 9, Tennessee at 7, 6 is Florida, Alabama's number 2, and they got LSU number 1.
See, I have a problem with us being number 1 simply because you have to counterbalance the rude with the hospitable. We have more hospitality than anybody else. Although, to be fair, since we nixed tailgating last year, that nixes the idea of the hospitality. All you're left with is what
Look,
comes in the
anytime you get
stadium.
80 to 90,000 people on a campus
Yeah.
at one time,
Yeah.
it all depends where you are, who you're walking next to, and who you're sitting next
Right.
to. I mean, it's all relative.
And how much
relevant.
Evan Williams they've been slamming
Oh,
all
look,
day.
you know what I also did for you? Sue wanted to make love last night. I said, not tonight. I got to do some stuff for Brian.
I appreciate that.
So we passed. We didn't even hold hands, walk the neighborhood, and watch the sunset and take selfies with my phone and post them on Instagram. Didn't do it.
I appreciate that effort.
Matter of fact, I was so tired after doing it, we didn't even go to the VFW hall on Wooddale and play bingo. Go to Piccadilly, get the small one.
Do they have bingo on a Sunday?
Oh, and I'm going to tell you something. As you get up there in age, guys, do what I do. Stop giving your wife hickey because their whole body turns purple because that skin gets real thin.
Noted. Duly noted. When was the last time
check
you had a
this out.
hickey?
What's that?
When was the last time you had a hickey? High
The
school?
first day I worked with Anna, I think she got a little overzealous, jumped over the board.
That happens.
Hey, let me tell you this. Did you know this, too? Did you know that UCLA used to be called the Grizzlies, but Montana State appealed it? And the NCAA told UCLA they got to change their mascot. Thus,
it.
they became the Bruins.
That's pretty cool.
How you like that?
I didn't know
and
that.
Do you know this about UCLA? They get more applications from students wanting to enroll at UCLA than any other school in the world.
Really?
How you like that?
I did not
and
know
did
that.
you know the first internet exchange on a college campus in 1969 happened between UCLA and Stanford?
Stanford, I would assume,
That's
part of
exactly
that
right.
equation, but UCLA
There's
is
a lot
surprising.
more facts coming, Brian.
No,
That's
this-
just what
and
I
this-
had time to do this morning.
I appreciate it. All this going to play out on the field 2 weeks from now.
Oh, and can I do this too? Because you got a lot of people in Lafayette who put up the aluminum foil and the rabbit ears.
Yeah.
They get up on their house and turn the antenna when you on. I'm gonna tell you, I was over there last week.
We're
Anyway,
on
don't
YouTube.
forget the little league team from Lafayette. They beat Pennsylvania on Saturday.
I know.
They play 7:00 tonight. So
On
check that
ESPN
out.
too.
Exactly right.
ESPN
See,
too.
that's why
They're
like
going
coming on
head-to-head
your
with the
show.
Saints.
I got people all over the world asking me to come on that show.
Yeah.
But they not informed and they want me to do their work for them. That's why when I come to you, I know it's a mutual broadcasting relationship, and I got a lot of respect for you.
Absolutely.
Haldane.
Playing Ohio.
Sure do.
Ohio tonight.
Exactly
in
right.
an elimination game.
And remember, who's the one who told you about the Weir kid? I told you about Gavin Weir.
Yes, you
remember
did.
I told you that?
do remember that.
230-something innings in postseason play. Kid hadn't gotten never a hit or a run.
Unreal.
I had that for you on your show.
Yeah, you did.
You know why? Because I'm an invited guest. I always bring a dish. I'm not one of those losers who show up, he brings 6 beers, and he takes 4 home with him. I don't do that.
It's rude. It's rude to take beer back
Damn
home with
right
you.
it is.
If you're bringing the beer, you've donated the beer.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way that is. I don't care if you like it or not.
Oh, and by the way, the 81 million people who voted for Biden 237 days ago, thank you.
What do you do now?
Thank you.
We do from
Zero. Absolutely zero. So all the ugly white women who were protesting, wasn't no pretty women protesting. That's why if I ever open up a bar, I'm going to have ladies night. I'm going to get with the local police and find out when there's a protest. That's when I'm going to have my ladies night at my bar because all the ugly chicks are going to be out there protesting.
That is a solid plan.
You know what I mean? I don't
No,
want
it's-
chicks with 4 different colored hair and I got metal through every toe and ear and nose. No way.
That's an obsession I'll never understand. The metal all through the face.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Me neither.
I don't get it.
Me neither.
You know, nothing turns me on than a woman dumping her ashtray full of cigarette butts onto the road. Pull over. I want to get me a little of that.
What else going on, Rich?
Life. Hey, I went shopping, B.
You went
I
shopping.
went shopping. You know something? I did it for the first time. Went shopping with the wife over the weekend because I know people don't.
Like
people,
groceries or
no,
clothes?
People, I didn't go make groceries. And I don't even go to the store no more because they don't have the big brown Swagman bag. You ever try to watch your team lose over and over and over and cut out a plastic bag, eyes and a nose? That's
It's not
bitch.
recommended. Although,
ain't easy.
although, if your team stinks this year, the CDC recommends wearing 2.
B, seriously, I went shopping for LSU gear.
What?
Don't have any. Going
Wait,
to
how do
Pasadena,
you-
so I had to represent.
How do you not have LSU gear?
I just never do. Just
It's weird.
I got like an LSU sweatshirt or something,
Right.
but not like game day attire.
No,
I'm
but
not
like,
one of those
like
guys
a polo
that lays
with
out
the
his
little-
outfit the night
I figured
before.
you to be a Walking Tigers guy. The little Walking Tiger logo on the polo.
Yeah.
That's where I see
You know what I do? As soon as I buy a shirt, I go to like a tailoring by 10 or something
Yeah.
and get the biceps taken in so I look like I'm buffed. That's what I do. And you know what the woman
solid
tells me
plan.
every time? You come here, yeah, take by in, take by out. Make your mark. Make up your mark.
Oh, Jack Morris is reeling right now.
Big Jack, love Jack.
You heard about what happened with him?
Didn't he make some comment or something? He apologized.
Did exactly what you just
whatever.
did, and he got suspended.
Right,
With
well-
the Detroit Tigers.
Well, at least him and I have one thing in common. I
Yeah.
said it. So what did you do over the weekend, B? You been DJing? What do you want?
Oh, we tell you what I did over the weekend.
Yeah, I heard you the other day talking about DJing.
Yeah.
Coach, I want you to DJ me and my wife's 38th wedding anniversary that's coming up.
Okay. When
You know
is
what
it?
the first song I want? Got to have me a little Stevie B. Got to have me either Fantasy Girl or I Want You or Springtime or you know
Spring
what?
Love.
Kuiper.
Spring Love. Oh,
Tic-tac-toe.
Kuiper. Yeah.
Yeah, give me a little Kuiper.
Dude, I could play freestyle all night long and just never get bored with that. Never get bored with that.
I'd
What
love
was,
to go see
what was
you.
the first song y'all
You
danced
got to
to?
let me know which gym you're going to because I want to see you over there go work,
Look, the VFW hall you were just talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
It
come
can
in,
get crazy in there, I'm telling you.
roll
I
up
know
in
the
with a
secret knock if they kick you out.
with a
I know
handle-
the secret knock over there.
you can roll in with a handle of Old Crow, and we'll just
right.
have
You
a
and I
good
wearing
time.
sands and belts? How about that? You and I walking out with some sands and belts, some clogs, a little silk shirt, a little dracar behind the ears on the
You go
wrist.
to car, not cool water?
Red Baron, dude.
Oh.
Red Baron. You remember Red
Solid.
Baron?
As a pizza.
Like a fly trap. You know what I used to do, T? I used to just crank down the windows and crank up the tries and the coals. You follow me? Sit down in a little general parking lot on West Bank Expressway. It's like fishing with dynamite.
It's a beautiful thing.
Watch the little boo-boos hop in there.
And that's
Like
how
counting how many beans is in the jar. Win the prize.
and that's how we get the week started now. That is exactly why we do this. Richard Condon from Eagle 98.1's Condon Uncensored.
And B, let me let everybody know, we don't want no active weather in the Gulf, right? We don't want any tropical
we're-
systems.
no,
coming.
it's-
But I will tell you, if it does happen, the best coverage is going to be right here.
Oh, 100%. I appreciate you, brother. We're
Hey, you got a suggestion for a good IPA real quick?
Juicifer.
I'll go with it.
All
Thank
right.
you. Good morning, everybody. Have a great week.
We are so late for a break. Thank you, Rich. That was perfect. Except for the Asian accent. Okay. Don't forget to download the all-new Talk 1073 mobile app presented by Gregory Ricks and Associates. You can listen live. You can listen on demand. You can even set an alarm to wake up with the show. The Talk 1073 mobile app presented by Gregory Ricks and Associates. Going to take a quick break to check your money now and traffic. When we come back, we're talking vaccines next. But yeah, the nature of the sensitivity, I understand them wanting to nip it in the bud. You suspend him for a game so that nobody calls for him to be fired. But you can rest assured that no matter what you do initially, those who want to be up in arms are going to be up in arms, and they're going to ask for more. It's like self-reporting in the NCAA. Does it really stave off further punishment, or does it just hurt you before you get hurt? You see, I disagree. All right. So They suspended him before there was an audience complaint. You don't know that any of the audience.
I had to watch it 3 times.
Yeah, and it's not even about the audience. It's about making sure that no one protests your sponsors. Someone who has never listened to a Detroit Tigers radio broadcast before in their life, someone in Northern California, is going to get hold of the clip on YouTube or TikTok or wherever, and like, oh my God, I'm offended by what? Then stop listening to the Detroit Tigers radio broadcast that you've never effing listened to before anyway.
I'm offended. I've seen an Asian before.
I get where you're at, but like I feel like their actions were so preemptive that they were.
They made it a big deal before it was a big deal.
Exactly, and by that you might be making it more of a big deal.
More people have seen it now because here's how I saw it. Jack Morris gets suspended for racial comment. And then that's where it popped up.
He dropped an N-bomb. No, he didn't.
I didn't hear anything about
Right.
it until it happened.
All right, what's happening, Debbie? What's happening, Eric? Good morning, Renee. Good morning, Troy. Troy says when Condon walks in with notes, duck and cover. Oh, totally. Debbie reminds us we had a full moon, too. Yes, we did. Oh, my word. That's totally true. Eric says Taylor was at the Waffle House holding court. Don't let him off the hook.
Yeah, I was. You know, we got in a fight. Somebody wanted it smothered and covered, and we didn't have any cheese in the back, so it became a big issue.
All right, so the Bill Burr clip, the first minute 18, there should be a deleted F-bomb in there, like a bleeped out F-bomb. So I know in the version I said, yeah.
Play it from the beginning until 18.
Yeah.
Nope. There's not even vehicles out there. There's just traffic cones sitting there. Oh, dude, I took videos and everything. I was so mad.
You should be.
Like, I would have been better off just pulling over and taking a nap. It took me an hour to get from Denham to...
You'd think that's the kind of thing that's in, like, an alert would go out ahead of time. But the thing was,
I got one on while I was in traffic.
right.
In between the 2 exits.
Well, so for what it's worth, WBRZ was on their game.
Well, no.
Because the construction was supposed to stop at 5. If the construction stops at 5, traffic picks up before traffic backs up.
Yeah.
So,
I got on the interstate.
you said Matherns?
Yeah, I got on the interstate at 5. And it
Yeah.
was fine until I got to Denham. And boom.
654 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP CBS World News Roundup coming your way in just a little bit. So, I'm trying to figure out how to approach this next topic. It's a video that's actually a couple months old, audio that's a couple months old for our purposes. But it involves vaccines, and it went kind of viral over the past weekend, and I couldn't help but share the first minute 20 of it. So many people have had so much hesitancy when it comes to the vaccines. And like a lot of folks, I'm up for a good conspiracy theory. I love a good conspiracy theory. I love the fact that, you know, all of a sudden people want to tell you that, you know, we live on a flat earth when this should have been settled hundreds of years ago. But when it comes to the vaccines, you want to toss a conspiracy theory my way? I'm willing to listen. Thing is, comedian Bill Burr is also always up for a good conspiracy theory. And he was on with Conan O'Brien to talk about it. And I'd just give this a listen. I love this take. I love this angle.
Days, you know, people are arguing about whether they should get vaccinated or not. Have you gotten vaccinated?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm up for it too. I'm like, you know, if they're trying to kill me, which doesn't, that conspiracy, I love a conspiracy, doesn't make any sense.
You don't think the anti-vax conspiracy lines up?
That they're secretly trying to kill all of us for population control? No, because what they would do they would be killing all what they call the sheeple. So all the people can be like, all the people that go, what are we supposed to do? Okay, they're going to kill us.
Right.
And then just be left with all the Fonzies with their leather jackets who don't want to, who are too cool to listen to people. Like they got a nightmare. Who's gonna dig their ditches for them? So
Yes.
It just doesn't make. I mean, if you want to say that they're going to come up with something to thin the herd, I will go with that. But they would never do a pointed attack on people that are going to do whatever they say.
Yes, yes. They're eliminating the wrong group if this is the plan.
So maybe they vaxxed us sheeple, so then they can have a second vaccine of COVID to kill all the cool people that hit a jukebox and it turns on.
I mean, that makes so much sense. Think about it. If the vaccine were for thinning the herd, yeah, you'd be killing all of us who, like, got in line. Please, sign me up. All of us who follow the rules. Bill Burr is so brilliant. Why did it take this long to come up? I mean, to be fair, that was from, like, late May, early June. I don't remember the exact date. But why is that not the prevalent thought here? Get in line. Because you don't want to see what's coming next. Get in line. You have no idea where the conspiracy is actually headed. By the way, speaking of vaccine numbers, and we'll get into this a little bit later on in the show, they continue to tick upward at a decent clip. We'll have more numbers for you later on in the show. But on a serious note, it's catching hold. We're above 50% nationwide within the state. The first shot still well outpacing the second shot, which is a good thing because that means the number of people still lining up to get their first shot is still at a big clip. We haven't seen the popularity of it waning lately. .658 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. I'm seeing if I got enough time to hit the next. No, I don't. I'll tell you what. We got the CBS World News Roundup coming your way in just a little bit. Before that, though, got to tell you about the folks over at Mathern's. 2 locations. You know where they're at downtown. 3rd Street. You also know where they're at now on campus. Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive. So we're 2 weeks away from LSU football kicking off. 3 weeks away from tailgating. Going to need to set up your tailgate headquarters. Those Suddens onlys you're going to need on game day, you can get them at Mathern's. School's open as of today at LSU. Classes are back in as of today at LSU. The weekly routine back on as of today at LSU. If you are on campus, not just a student, faculty, staff, or anybody commuting up and down Nicholson for that matter, make sure you're stopping by Mathern's for your grocery items. Make sure you're stopping by Mathern's for, I don't know, your lunch from day to day. They've got you covered with the lunch, the salad bar, the sushi bar, the full deli counter, and, of course, all your groceries as well, not to mention the small appliances that if you're, in the dorms, apartment, whatever the case might be where you don't have a kitchen, they can help you out there as well. Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive. Don't forget the Mathern's app, too. Get your grocery shopping done before you leave work. Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. Go check out Mathern's. All right, we got CBS World News Roundup coming your way in just a little bit. After that, top stories and trending. After that, we're going to talk about COVID and kids when it comes to Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital. What are we actually seeing? You hear the reports of how many kids are being diagnosed positive with COVID. What's showing up in the hospitals? We're going to talk with Our Lady of the Lake about that in our Medical Monday segment. And, of course, we will check in with Stephen Waguespack from the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Coming up next, right here on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk.
Protect your retirement. The Presley Group time, 7 o'clock.
WBRP, Baker, Baton Rouge, 98.1 HD3. Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk. Deadly Tennessee floods.
There's just so many people missing right now. It's hard to have hope.
Afghanistan airlift. Discussions going on with extending nearing pandemic milestone.
The FDA is expected to give the Pfizer vaccine full approval.
Get ready for a number of people who have been quiet about making the vaccine mandatory coming to the forefront. Every outlet out there. Oh, every governmental office, every school district. Not every school district, a lot of school districts. Do what? Isn't Pfizer Viagra?
I just never heard of them. I mean, if it's Viagra, that would make sense. I mean, they know how to raise the bar, so.
Oh. Do what?
It's not road work. In order for it to be road work, you have to be working on the road. I saw 3 guys leaning up against the concrete car.
The road work wrapped up around 5 a.m.
It did.
The blockages.
So the road work wrapped up at 5. There were
Right.
no construction
The
vehicles.
blockages didn't.
Yeah. Like, honestly, they looked like they were waiting for someone else to come pick up the cones.
That.
That
sounds-
literally leaning up against the concrete.
Yeah.
Like 4 people.
I know. Who does this? Well, that's CBRC.
Late, huh?
.706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Hour 2 mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Taylor Sharp producing. Got a busy hour for you this hour. We'll have top stories and trending coming up in just a minute, but looking forward to Medical Monday as well. We're talking COVID and kids with Medical Monday. We keep hearing reports of the number of children being infected with COVID, the number of children testing positive for COVID. Well, what are the real-life applications here? How many of them are ending up in the hospital? How many of those are ending up in ICU, on ventilators, and the like? We're going to talk with Our Lady of the Lake about what's going on within their children's hospital at 7:15 in our Medical Monday segment. Also this hour, Stephen Waguespack from LABI will hop on board at 7:35. We talk with Stephen every single Monday about what's going on in the business world, and this week's no different. We got a lot on our plate this week, from infrastructure up in Washington, D.C., to setting the table for what's to come with redistricting here, to the ongoing fourth surge of the COVID-19 pandemic and where we're at with the Delta variant. What impacts is it having on business? We'll talk with Stephen about all these things coming up later on this hour. Right now, though, we start the second hour of the show with top stories and trending.
Talk 107.3 FM, the most trusted name in news. Brought to you by Complete Collision Center, with locations in Zachary and Baton Rouge. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Choose CompleteCollision.com. I want to know absolutely everything that's happened up to now. Number 5.
Start off by talking electric cars. More than 20 government agencies, universities, and electric utilities in Louisiana soon will be getting electric vehicle charging stations worth more than $1.7 million. Department of Environmental Quality is awarding grants to 26 entities for 82 charging stations, using money from the state's $19.8 million share. The money comes from a settlement worth nearly $3 billion between the U.S. Justice Department and Volkswagen over violations of the Clean Air Act. This according to the New Orleans Advocate. Volkswagen sold about 590,000 vehicles equipped with devices that worked against their air pollution control features, resulting in increased emissions of nitrogen oxide. Almost $12 million of Louisiana's share of the 2016 settlement was set aside to replace 351 diesel engine buses owned by 16 school boards. The new engines will reduce nitrogen oxide emissions and other pollutants such as sulfur dioxide, volatile organic compounds, and particulate matter. By the way, these charging stations, I'm going to have a ton of questions about. We need to learn more about them in the very near future. Like, for example, do you have to pay for them when you plug into a charging station? I mean, like, I got to pay when I pull into a gas station. Does that just...
So it's like the coin vacuums at the car wash.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. You pay for the car wash, you get the coin vac for free.
Yep.
Right. How's that work with the charging station? Number 4, let's see. A person was seriously hurt after a car went off the road along I-110 in Baton Rouge. The wreck happened sometime after 6 p.m. yesterday along the interstate near Highway 19. Sources said a child was taken to a hospital in critical condition. As of this time, or as of the time we went on the air this morning, no other details related to the crash were immediately available. Today marks the start of a new semester at LSU. Students who've already provided either proof of vaccination or proof that they've tested negative for COVID are masking up and returning to campus. Fall classes are starting amid a resurgence of the virus in Louisiana, which was worsened by the Delta variant, but university officials have been working closely with state health officials to implement procedures that will minimize COVID-related issues on campus. I can tell you that as of Wednesday of last week, 50% of students had reported within the COVID protocols, the entry protocols. Of that 50%, 84% were already vaccinated. Now, the remaining 50% had until 11:59 p.m. Saturday to make their reporting. So we anticipate hearing from LSU later on today as to what that remaining 50% ended up reporting. 3 Baton Rouge police officers were severely injured in an overnight crash where a person believed to be driving drunk drove into a separate crash scene and hit the officers. This was overnight, Friday night into Saturday. The wreck happened around 3 a.m. Saturday on I-10 East near College Drive. 27-year-old Joseph White was arrested in connection with the crash. White is charged with driving drunk, reckless operation, and a series of charges for negligent injuring related to hitting the officers. Police said White was driving erratically on I-10 before College. A group of officers were investigating a crash on 10 in the area. The officers and the police cruisers were in the left lane with emergency lights flashing because of the earlier wreck. Police said White was speeding, drove into the crash scene, hitting the officers and police cruisers. 2 officers were hit by White's vehicle. A third was injured after White's vehicle slammed into the officer's cruiser as the officer sat inside that vehicle. We will hopefully have updates on those officers later on in the show. Baton Rouge police detectives are awaiting a coroner's report about the exact cause of death for a child found dead in a hot car Friday. Police said Saturday morning detectives were continuing to investigate and were awaiting details from the autopsy. Of course, the child's name has not been released. During a Saturday morning interview, Baton Rouge EMS supervisor Mike Schust confirmed the child was dead when first responders arrived. Quote, "It doesn't take long, I would say 5 to 10 minutes, before a child would start suffering some serious heat exhaustion symptoms and shortly thereafter become unconscious." Schust said this is Baton Rouge's only case of a child passing away due to being left in a hot car this year. The child was a girl believed to be about 1 year old. Child was found dead in a car on Oak Grove Drive, which is located in a neighborhood just off of North Sherwood. That is a look at your top stories. Here is a look at what's trending this morning. Oh, Pennington Biomedical is picking back up on a study that they had to bail on because of COVID. And I find this one very, very intriguing. In fact, I remember talking about it when they were still doing it. After more than a year of halted progress, a study at Pennington is ramping things up again. Quote, "I think that this is very important, and we still conduct the study despite of the pandemic," said Dr. Eric Ravison, Associate Executive Director of Clinical Research. The study is called MOTORPAC, Molecular Transducers of Physical Activity Consortium. It looks at the effects of exercise on sedentary adults at a molecular level. The goal is to help doctors better understand what kind of exercise works for different body types. I think I might sign up for this one. Participants are randomly assigned into 3 groups: endurance training, resistance training, and a control group that stays the same. Those in the resistance and endurance group train with professionals 3 times a week. Researchers began conducting the study in September of 2019, but when the pandemic shut things down, progress came to a halt. Now, they're picking things back up again. That is a look at your top stories and trending. We are due up for a quick break. When we come back from this break, it's time to talk about COVID and kids. Medical Mondays coming your way next on Talk 107.3.
How do you choose the right attorney? I give you the
Talk
answers at
107.3.
lawfirm.com. Don't allow insurance companies to take advantage
Doing good. We're gonna do the
Hey, get the name and title. Name it
Wait, what's your name? What's your title?
and full name.
What is it? Okay, and then full name.
Like correct pronunciation.
Yeah, hang on, give me a second. Yeah, I'm ready.
All the schools that meet your criteria.
Yeah, you spell that.
No more paperwork, no more stress. Just the right school for your child. But don't wait too long to apply. Claim your seat today. Visit enrollbr.org to get started. That's enrollbr.
Okay, so that would be
Hey, this is Brian Haldane for St. Vincent.
so EHA.
Consider donating your boat, car, motorcycle, or RV to St. Vincent de Paul. This donation can get you a tax deduction and go to sbbbr.org to learn more. Now, your WBRZ traffic.
Yeah, I got you. And you're the director of the pediatric ICU.
Director of
Okay,
pediatrics.
thank you. Dr. Kalichi Iowara.
Iowara. I got it.
Iowara.
Iowara?
Iowara. No, it's Aya, because I asked her if it was EYE, and she said no. It's Kalichi Iowara. And she's the director of pediatric ICU. That's why I grabbed the pen. She goes, okay, you ready for this? Yeah. She's like, no.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 Toyo passenger or light truck tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
It's time for Medical Monday, brought to you in the interest of your health by Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center.
Yes, it is time for Medical Monday, and this is something that we've been trying to dive into a little more often here when it comes to Medical Monday, and that is the effects of COVID on our kids. We've been hearing about it repeatedly with the fourth surge, with the Delta variant, that, the Delta variant is just going after younger people than the previous variants. We've also been hearing about a number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 that has been astronomical in compared to previous variants when it comes to our children. But what are the actual effects here? Are they just testing positive, or is it getting progressively worse? Joining us now to talk about that is Dr. Kalichi Iowara, Director of the Pediatric ICU for Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital. Dr. Iowara, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad to have you on this morning. Glad to be talking about this so we can get as much information out as possible on this particular topic. So let's start with the basics. Let's start with what you're seeing over at Our Lady of the Lake.
Well, unfortunately, we continue to see more and more kids present to our ER with acute COVID as well as COVID-related complications like MIS-C, which is an inflammatory syndrome that you see after a kid has had COVID. We see kids that are really sick from COVID and require ICU care and breathing machine. And then some kids are admitted to the regular unit with just oxygen and monitoring. So we're seeing really a wide range of severity of the illness among kids. The scary thing is that, our numbers continue to skyrocket. It seems like every single week we have a new record, and that's what's really scary too.
What kind of numbers are we talking about here?
So, just to give you an example, we saw 22 patients in our ER with COVID last, June, this past June. And that number already for the first 17 days in August, we've already hit 200. So it just continued. And these are just patients that are coming to the ER, to our hospital for acute care. Mm-hmm. So that does not include all the patients that are going to the pediatrician's office or that are just getting COVID tested, elsewhere. So, that number is much higher, but we're just seeing a small population of kids who are really sick with COVID and who are getting admitted. And that number, we never saw it last year. So it's really alarming.
That is a large number. I mean, when the governor says that, 2,000 kids over the course of, over the course of a weekend were diagnosed or tested positive with COVID, 10% of that number alone is at Our Lady of the Lake. That's a huge number.
It really is.
Let's talk about symptoms and then severity after that. Start off with the symptoms, if you could, for parents out there wanting to know what to look for, because obviously the earlier you can get treatment, the better it's going to be. So what should parents be on the lookout for?
So one, the COVID, this Delta variant is so strange, and we're still trying to understand all that it causes. So the first thing that we usually see is a runny nose, just regular cold symptoms. And then some kids will progress to having fever, and some will end up having some breathing problems. And I think once you get to that point where you notice that your child has high fever and they have breathing problems, you should certainly see a doctor. But if they have any cold symptoms at all, runny nose, cough, congestion, sneezing, I would definitely get them tested.
And if they test positive, then what?
So if your child tests positive for COVID, the first thing to do is first thing is to quarantine them. That is the first thing you should do. So keep them home from school, keep them home from daycare, notify whoever they may have come in contact with prior days before. And if possible, they need to stay away from any family member that may be immunocompromised or have an underlying medical problem, because their risk of COVID is much higher. The next thing to do is notify their primary care doctor. If your child is a special needs child or if they're obese, I would certainly notify your doctor as soon as possible. This is very important because that population may be eligible for early COVID treatments that can reduce their symptoms and keep them out of the hospital.
We're going to talk about that in just a second as well. But so I could tell you as a parent, I'm much more likely to contact a medical professional about my child than I am myself. I mean, if I'm showing symptoms, I'm a 44-year-old guy. I'm just like, I'm going to duke it out. But if my kids are showing symptoms, I'm going to be much more protective. That being said, where do you draw the line between going to the ER right away versus overtaxing an already overtaxed ER?
So I always tell parents, because I'm a parent as well, and you have that gut feeling, right? Mm-hmm. You know when your child is sick, and you know when your child is really sick. You have that gut feeling. So I tell parents, if anything concerns you to the point where you're worried and you're scared, follow that gut instinct. It's almost 100% accurate when it comes to your children. So that's one thing. So I don't want parents not come to the ER because they think they're going to overtax us. I rather them come and we say, hey, you're fine, you can go home, than to not come at all. But the basic rule is, if your child has breathing problems, if they look like they're struggling in any ways, they're just really sick to you, I say either go to their doctor's office, or if they're not open, come to the ER. But at least make a phone call either to your doctor's office. So oftentimes they'll tell you, hey, I want you to come here, or I want you to go to the ER. And if you're really worried and afraid, just go to the ER or call 911.
You brought up childhood obesity a minute ago, and I'd like to kind of follow up in that regard when it comes to the kids that are actually in the hospital with COVID. When we hear about grown-ups and comorbidities and whatnot, does the same apply to kids with, like, let's say, obesity would be one, maybe asthma would be another?
That is exactly, you nailed it. With this Delta variant, the same comorbidities that you worry about in adults, you have to worry. If the kids have the same problem, you have to worry about that as well. We are finding that the kids that are in our ICUs or have other underlying medical problems, or they're obese and they have asthma. So those are all predisposing factors to worsening illness in general. And we do also see kids who are not totally healthy who end up in our ICUs, and oftentimes they're there with that post-COVID inflammation that we call MISC.
Okay, underlying medical conditions is a much nicer way of saying comorbidities. When we're talking about kids, it's so much less ominous that way. No. I'm with you. I'm going to adapt to that terminology for certain. Let's talk about treatment a little bit.
Yes.
We're learning a lot about, I apologize if I get this wrong, monoclonal antibody treatments or infusions. Yes. We're learning a lot about that for adults. Will the same apply for children?
Yes. So we are looking into also starting that our hospital, and that is for children. And this is why it's important that if you have a child that has an underlying medical problem, they may qualify for monoclonal antibodies. And at a certain age, a certain weight, tracheostomy, like a breathing support, asthma. So there are some kids that will qualify for that. And this is why it's really important to call your doctor as soon as your child is diagnosed with COVID, because the earlier you give that treatment, the better they'll do in the long run.
Dr. Kelechi Iowara, director of the pediatric ICU for Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital, is our guest for Medical Monday. Doc, got to ask you about the variant or the differences in age for the kids who are being admitted, because you have two different categories here. I mean, I assume when we're talking kids, we're talking anybody under the age of 17. which puts a
Yes.
little dividing line versus those who can be vaccinated versus those who cannot. So I know it's kind of granular to ask, but is there a breakdown of 0 to 12 and 13 to 17?
So no, we have, unfortunately, we've seen kids as young as 3 weeks of age with COVID in the hospital and as old as 17. The sad part of that is that all the kids that are above the age of 12 that have been admitted to the hospital none of them have had their vaccine, which is kind of telling. So at least we know that we have not started seeing kids that have been vaccinated yet, and presumably that's because the vaccine is still pretty new for them. Yeah. But all the kids that we have had in the hospital, none of them had their vaccine.
Yeah, when it comes to the vaccine, I mean, this thing has moved very, very quickly. I mean, it was called Operation Warp Speed, for crying out loud. It's moved very, very quickly. And once again, the difference between adults and kids, as a parent or as a grown-up, I'm like, yeah, I'll get the shots, no problem. But as they very quickly move down in age for who was eligible for the vaccine, there's been more and more hesitancy for children. So what advice would you give to parents that have a child who's in that age range where they're eligible now?
I have a 13-year-old, and I also have a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old. And yes, I hesitated for a little bit before I gave my 13-year-old the vaccine because it's new and I had to think about it. Mm-hmm. But once I looked at the data, and I said, absolutely, you need to get the vaccine. So he has had his vaccine. The vaccine is safe. The vaccine is effective. It works. It can keep your child out of the hospital. And I'll tell you something, the relief that I feel when he leaves the house versus when the other two kids leave the house, I can't even describe it. It's like I just feel better knowing that he has an extra layer of protection against this virus, and it gives me peace of mind as a parent. But it is safe. It is effective. I know that we talk about how fast it was developed. Well, really, if you look at it, it wasn't really that fast because the mRNA work is somebody's lifetime work. And it just happens that it was ready in time, thank God, to help us with this pandemic. But it is effective, it works, and I encourage everyone that is over the age of 12 to get the vaccine. That's the only way we can keep our kids safe.
Yeah, we had a doctor on last week that was talking about the amount of time that went into this work. It's a good 20 years in the process, and it was just a matter of adapting the research they'd already done to the specific COVID, SARS-CoV-2. So while it was called Operation Warp Speed and everything felt very, very rushed, there was a lot of work going on behind the scenes before this was even a specific thing. So I took a lot of peace of mind from that, to be sure.
Absolutely.
Let's get back to those that are in the hospital. If I don't know what numbers you've got specifically, but I would like to ask you about, and I don't know, or we're not tracking that as a perfectly acceptable answer, but the average length of stay has been what?
So it varies. So if ICU stay is about 7 days, I would probably say like a week or so. Mm-hmm. We have had kids who have been there for longer, and some who have been there for a lot less. The hospital stay is usually about 5 days, like they're just regular oxygen inpatient requirement, inpatient admission. Now, this all depends on what the patient came in with, how severe the disease is. Did they have COVID pneumonia, or is it just, like a high fever and dehydration? So that really all depends on where the patient is admitted, ICU or floor. We did have to transfer a patient. We've had to send a patient for higher level of care, at times. And we did have one patient that died this past month in our ICU from COVID. So it really all kind of depends on the severity.
If you don't mind me asking, how old was that patient?
He was 10 years old.
A 10-year-old within the last month.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it is sobering to say the least. We had the coroner on a couple weeks ago, and that was 10 is significantly younger than the previous number, to say the least. In the meanwhile, I've got one more for you before we get you out of here. Just preventative measures ahead of time. Obviously, the vaccine for those who are eligible. But are there any other things that, if your kid is 12 or under, your parents can be doing to be preventative about this?
I mean, I think it's the same thing that we've been saying. It's masking. And have them wear a mask. The mask is safe. It's not going to hurt your child. If you find that they don't like the particular mask that they're using, change it. Try different ones. Try anything to get them to wear it. And then hand washing and social distancing. This is the only ammunition we have right now. I wish we had a vaccine for the younger ones. It's coming. But for now, vaccinate those around them, vaccinate uncles, vaccinate their aunts, vaccinate grandma, grandpa, vaccinate everyone that comes around your children, because that's how you're going to keep them safe. And then put a mask on and social distance.
Dr. Kalichi Iowara, Director of Pediatric ICU over at Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital. Thank you so much for the time this morning.
No, thank you. Have a good day.
You too. We 10 years old. That's frightening, to say the least. Whew. If you missed any of that, it'll be available on demand after the show this morning. Our Medical Monday segment presented by Our Lady of the Lake. It's always on demand after the show is over with. My appreciation to Dr. Iowara for her time and her expertise this morning. We got CBS News coming your way in just a minute. We're going to talk a little business in our next segment with Stephen Waguespack, president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Before we get to that, though, got to tell you about the folks over at Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. Now, when you think physical therapy, you might be thinking recovering from a major injury. Sure, they do that. They can help you with that. They've been doing that for 58 years. But along with that, over the course of that 58 years, they've been developing expertise on how to get you back to being your best you, regardless of what it is that's physically ailing you. Lower back pain, upper back pain, maybe a tweak in the knee, you name it. Give them a call, 917-9185, 917-9185. There are 6 locations of Baton Rouge Physical Therapy throughout the greater Baton Rouge area. You'll find them in Ascension, you'll find them in Livingston, and you will find them right here in Baton Rouge. I mean, you could be talking about an old sports injury from like back in the high school days that's coming back to haunt you now. They can work with you on that. They'll sit down, they'll talk about what exactly is ailing you and how to treat it. Get back to being your best you. Be better than your best you. Think Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. BRPTLake.com is the website. BRPTLake.com. Get back to being your best you with Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. All right, here comes CBS News on Talk 107.3.
About the guy in California who set the restaurant on fire.
Do what?
So a guy in California, it's a normal Mexican restaurant, but they have like a drive-through window for kind of like pickup orders only you can grab.
Okay.
He orders a water. They give him a cup of water, and he goes, never mind, can I just get like a free fountain drink? No, you can't have a fountain drink for free. Okay. Keep in mind, he's on a bicycle. Okay. Goes around the corner, sets the building on fire.
Where was this?
Somewhere in California.
Okay.
Yep. All because he couldn't get a free drink?
I mean,
They'd have just given him the drink.
right.
He'd have put it in his basket, rang his bell, and been on his way.
I think it's worth it.
He got arrested,
Yeah.
if you were wondering.
Well, it's
You're not allowed to do. Even in California, that's illegal.
Good luck getting a fountain drink in prison. All right. Renee says, did that 10-year-old have other health issues? Yeah, so it was running short on time, and the age of 10 kind of hit me by surprise. I'll follow up on that off the air to find out for sure. I would assume so. But, yeah. Troy says, we need to get to the bottom of this versus what Bo Clark said, already the youngest COVID death in EBR. Wonder if Bo had that death factored into his stats when you interviewed him. When I can tell you this definitively. When I interviewed Dr. Clark, that was a full week ago, and his stats were close to a week old. The Dr. Iowara said this happened within this month. So I'm guessing the next time we talk to Dr. Clark, it's going to be the 10-year-old that she just mentioned will be factored in. I don't think there's anything to get to the bottom on that. That is just a matter of lag of time. Oh, jeez. Mike Richards bowed out as the new Jeopardy host. Look at that.
It's Aaron Rodgers.
What? Texting a woman asking if she's ever taken nude pictures? Mike Richards, the new Jeopardy host, who's now not the Jeopardy host anymore. Well, she's
That's
like
not sexual harassment. That's just how it's gonna
the follow-up texts make it. Once she says no, stop. Everything after that.
look. There's
Hey, when Steven calls in, ask what he wants to talk about today because I got like 4 things. Yeah, the first question, that's totally fair game. Uncomfortable.
Cannon, icebreaker. You ever taken any nude photos? No. Second question, would you like to?
Yeah, that's out of bounds.
It's the follow-ups that get you. That's what they always say.
You know how to approach the follow-ups?
Yeah, it's the follow-ups.
You know how to approach the follow-ups? Very, very carefully. Intentionally offensive, ladies and gentlemen.
It's the follow-up.
I'll be back.
Yeah, every time. It is. Anything short of yes, watch. God, I love stories. They're basically just love every story. Hey, what's going on, Steven? I'm okay now that I'm not in traffic. Yeah, what do you want to hit on, Brian? Okay, no problem. I'll let him know. All right, thanks, man.
Where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 Toyo passenger or light truck tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
Hey, Brian. He said he texted you. Cool. Richard just thinking, he's like, I was doing good till that phone.
Yeah.
If I was just taking the L, nothing would happen.
Hey. .737 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Time to shift gears and talk a little business this morning. We welcome in every Monday morning Stephen Waguespack, president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, and we do that right now. Stephen, good morning. How are you, man?
Man, I'm good, Brian, but I reminded myself of how out of shape I am. I thought I could do a little treadmill work before I got on the radio with you, and even though I stopped 10 minutes ago, I'm still catching my breath. So if you hear me hot and heavy, that's what's causing it, not the robust dialogue we're about to have.
Heat index of 110 today, so heavy breathing and panting is probably going to be the norm as we make our way through the day.
Yeah, I won't be alone. I got kindred spirits all around this town, it sounds like.
I hope I'm not asking you to divulge too much, and you can back away from this question if you want, but how far did you get on the treadmill?
Well, actually, I got close to 3 miles is what I did.
Wow.
So,
okay, so you ran a 5K this morning, basically.
Well, I'm that type of physical specimen, Brian. It's just it's hard to contain this much athleticism on a daily basis.
You can't pivot from self-deprecating to bragging in the same sentence, or maybe you can.
You can read through that. Anyone who knows me knows I am far from what I just said. So,
all right, we got a lot of ground to cover this morning, so deep breath, maybe a few of them, and then we'll dive right in. All right.
I'm back, baby.
I got to start off with the overall state of the economy. We saw in the daily report on Friday, the jobless rate continues to fall, but we're higher than the U.S. average here in Louisiana. What are we looking at from an overall snapshot standpoint?
Yeah, I think the current snapshot's kind of scary, but the trend lines are looking promising. There was a report that came out last week by the University of Louisiana Lafayette. Their School of Business there put out a report by Professor Wagner that basically showed that Louisiana is ranked 46th in the country among states with economic recovery. That means we have bottom 5 slowest recovery amongst other states from this pandemic. And if you look at some of those numbers, it's true. We're still about 160,000 jobs down. Our unemployment rate about 2 points higher than it was before. And we're running about a point behind the national average. And so all of those trend lines are troubling if you look at the snapshot. But I would say in the last couple of weeks, we are starting to see people go back into the workforce. Our initial unemployment, enhanced unemployment claims are down this week. We're hovering just over 2,000 initial claims this week. And if you go back a year ago at this time, we're about 14,000 new claims. And so people are coming back to work. And so that's why, as we've worked with the administration, and I know other business groups have as well, we've told them, look, we want to work with you, do whatever we can to control this next surge. But, there's a caveat to that. This economy is not strong enough to contain another either full or partial shutdown. And so we can't have some of the limitations on businesses and schools and all that stuff that we saw some last year. We have to do whatever it takes to avoid that because our economy is fragile, but it's starting to get its life back. And so we don't want to throw a wet blanket on that as it starts, growing again. And thankfully, what we've heard back from the administration is they want to also do whatever they can to avoid any other, business limitations coming up and school limitations coming up. So, we're taking pride in that, and we're hoping that trend continues.
Absolutely. And with the enhanced unemployment benefits evaporating, and they're going to evaporate around the rest of the country just like less than, 2 weeks from now, 2.5 weeks from now?
Yeah, that's
right. We should start to see more and more people. The end of the next month will roll around. The next round of bills will roll around. But it's, I don't know. It's a slow process of a the chicken and the egg sort of thing to see folks actually getting back in the workforce. It's been slower than we'd like.
Yeah, that's true. But look, you mentioned that enhanced unemployment, and I want to kind of build on that a little bit. So, if folks that maybe don't recall, last year during the CARES Act that Congress passed to kind of help stimulate the pandemic impacted economy, one of the things they did is they put an enhanced unemployment benefit. So the feds added $300 per week to every state for whatever the state was offering, and so that over doubled the state benefit. Mm-hmm. And so what happened here is in the last session, the administration, the legislature, the business community, and the labor community all came to an agreement last session. And they said that they were going to stop Louisiana's acceptance of the enhanced unemployment 1 month early. So on July 31st, Louisiana no longer accepted the enhanced $300 per week benefit. That was an agreement by everyone. And that is around the time when you started to see people come back to work. And so I think it's pretty clear that has worked. That has brought people back to the workforce. And look, we're not just talking about people working in kitchens and hotels, which is very important. But look, just last week I was at my dentist office, and he was telling me, I was asking him how his job search is going because they're always looking for good people in the front lines. Mm-hmm. And he said in the last week or two they've seen people start to apply again. And so I think there's a lot of businesses that are starting to see employees come back because of that. Yeah. Now, there was a group of people who filed a lawsuit to try to stop Louisiana's rejection for the last month of this benefit. That was heard in court last week. Judge Tim Kelly denied their request to shut that down. They have filed an appeal. Appeal has been set for the hearing for early November. Now, that's far beyond what the benefit will be. President Biden has already said he's not going to extend this. At least he has no plans to do that. And so this may be a moot point, but there still is a chance that the lawsuit could be successful, but it'll be so far past the benefit that it probably won't have much of an impact. So the good news is thus far the courts have agreed with what the governor, the legislature, the business community, and the labor community all agreed to, that ending that benefit a month early drove people back to apply for jobs, and it's a big reason why we're starting to see some life again in our economy.
What's going to be interesting to see how it plays out with something like that, though, Stephen. And I don't know I don't know if there's a breakdown on this or not, but the governor cut a deal here. Like, it's not just that the enhanced unemployment benefit went away; the overall unemployment benefits went up by like $36 a month because of the deal. Like the governor said, I'm going to forego 1 month in order to get you more forever, like in perpetuity. So if a judge overturns that, and you can cash out an extra $300 or whatever the case might be for the month of August when it expired in September anyway, do we have to go back on the other end of the deal as well and say, no, this was all part of the legislation. If you're going to throw out the expiration of the enhanced unemployment benefits, you also have to throw out the part where that you got the extra money on the back end forever.
You're spot on, Brian. As part of that deal, there was a permanent increase in the weekly state unemployment claim. So whether it's a month from now, a year from now, or a decade from now, if there's an unemployment claim filed, it will be, I can't remember, it's like $26 per week or $38 per week more because of this arrangement. So you're right. If a judge does come in and throw out that law in its entirety, they also throw out that enhanced benefit that people will benefit from generations to come in Louisiana. The other piece is where we have seen some states where the court has come in and overruled a decision by a state. Mm-hmm. Usually that was in states where that governor by executive order stopped the benefit. Here in Louisiana, it's unique. You had a legislative instrument that was debated in public, passed, and then signed into law. That's a high threshold for a judge to come in after the fact and say, no, you can't do that. That's much different than an executive order, drafted in a dark office somewhere. That's not what happened here in Louisiana.
No, this was 100%, it was cooperative, to say the least. I mean, it seemed amicable on both sides, and
That's
both
right.
sides got what they wanted out of the deal. So to undo one side, you kind of have to undo the other. Stephen Waguespack is our guest. He's the president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. So let's shift the focus up to Washington, D.C., it should be an active week with infrastructure, transportation, and the like.
Yeah, I think this week you may see whether there's potential or not, or if it's a disaster or a great stroke of genius or whatever it ends up being on this transportation issue. As folks remember, the Senate passed a bipartisan transportation bill a few weeks ago, and the real debate is in the House of Representatives. And Speaker Pelosi has said she doesn't want to pass that bill unless she can also pass the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation that has all kind of garbage in it. And there's a group of 9 moderate Democrats in the House of Representatives who are standing up and saying, no, we don't want to do that. We want to pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and we want to separate that 3.5, have a debate on that, et cetera. Pelosi can only lose about 3 Democrat votes before she has a problem with that $3.5 trillion monstrosity. And so if 9 of them are saying no, she's got a problem on her hands. And so this week, she's got to figure out whether she's going to double down on the game plan, try to force a jamming of those 2 bills, which could make the whole thing either die or get punted till later in the fall, or whether she's going to take a knee and yield to the 9 moderates in her House and say, okay, we'll pass the standalone bipartisan infrastructure bill on its own merits and then debate the other bill separately. We are hoping that they do that they take up the $1 trillion bill on its own merits. We do support that bill. I know that there's mixed reactions in our delegation on that, and we understand that. But we think, in general, there's no doubt that this nation needs infrastructure improvement. And there's also no doubt that anytime you fund an infrastructure bill that spends money and finds ways to pay for it, everyone's going to find a problem with it. It's easy to poke holes in an infrastructure bill. The question is, at some point, are we going to be able to improve our infrastructure or not? And we think this is the best compromise we've seen in a long time, as long as they do whatever it takes to stop in its tracks that $3.5 trillion disaster. Because if that bill gets attached onto it, then the whole thing needs to go in the trash can and they start over from scratch.
Yeah, they do. And I'd asked Senator Cassidy, who was part of that bipartisan effort to get this bill forward, written out of the Senate, if the $3.5 trillion gets attached to it, are you going to vote no on your own bill? And his response was, it's going to fail on a straight party line vote. So,
Oh, look, we've asked him that as well, and we've gotten the same answer from him as well. And I think that's where his heart and head is on that. And so, and look, I know other members of our delegation, they're trying to, look, these are big, long, huge documents with lots of stuff in it. So they're trying to wrap their head around it. And I don't blame them. If I were up there, I'd be doing the same thing. And so, look, this week, I think the big thing is if the 9 moderate House Democrats can continue to hold the line that they've held for a couple of weeks, force Pelosi to become more reasonable in negotiations on this. Look, perhaps even this $1 trillion infrastructure bill, maybe that can even be tweaked or revised in a way to modify some concerns. If they have a good, honest debate on this thing, I think you can get a decent document out of there that will help rebuild some of our infrastructure, but do it in a way that doesn't bust the deficit like that other bill would do.
well, and so we talked with Congressman Graves about it last week. His biggest concern was that it's 2,800 pages long and you have to sift through all of it first.
Yeah.
But his second concern was the amount of money we spent on COVID last year, tacked on to what are we going to spend on COVID in the years to come in order to keep everything else afloat. So at a certain point, you have to stop and say, wait a minute, are we just making up money at this point?
Well, and I'll be honest with you, that's one of the things I like about that infrastructure bill, because they use some of that COVID money to pay for it.
Yep.
And they said, look, let's grab some of that back and pay for roads. And look, if this bill dies, make no mistake, Congress is going to reallocate that money somewhere else. And if they use it on some program that's going to be recurring, they're going to end up adding to deficit problems down the road. And I don't want that at all.
I think it's safe to say that everyone would agree with you on that one. It's because it is going to pop up again. Money doesn't just go back into the coffers. It just finds a different way to get spent. In the meanwhile, we appreciate the time as we do every single week. Hey, Steven, by this time next week, the next time we talk, college football will have been played.
Amen. Oh, man, you know what's on my mind. Watching some of the scrimmage highlights from this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to get back in Death Valley and see that. And I think the Tigers are going to be legit this year.
Yep.
So I love the fact that we got these kind of mid-tier rankings in the top 25. I think the country better watch out for the Tigers this year.
He is Stephen, as do I. He is Stephen Waguespack, president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. We always appreciate the time, sir.
All right, man. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. We'll talk to you next week. We are 10 seconds late for Your Money Now.
Say the Fed is too stimulative. 26% thought so in March. The shift in
That was on me. My fault. My bad.
The survey also found 79% of the groups
Ready.
requiring employees to be vaccinated before return to the workplace. About a quarter of respondents indicated their employers already required
It is going by quick. I told Jake to take notes tomorrow. Like, bring me notes to start taking tomorrow. Because you're not? Who's in? Okay. So, well, good. Even more of a reason for him to take notes. But does Kay know how to start us on YouTube?
I'll just have Chuck set switch it to your page and everything.
Okay. So, yeah, after his financial fitness.
I'm randomly on it. I'm Monday, Thursday, Friday this week. I make the schedule.
No, it's okay. I've gotten you longer than I thought I was going to. But he was here all last week. So I'm like, it's cool, just sit back, but let's ramp up the learning starting tomorrow.
Do the last hour today?
It's the first hour. I mean,
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
I didn't talk about construction jobs with Steven. That was the one thing I wanted to get into.
Complete collision.
You got it.
Oh, good Lord.
Let's-
Yeah, let him.
Galen says the coroner specifically stated that COVID was not, if the COVID was not the cause of death, he didn't count it as a COVID fatality. I bet the hospitals use different counting rules. You're probably right, Galen. I mean, if I'm the hospital and I have a COVID patient who dies, then yeah, when that person leaves the hospital headed to the coroner's office, then They're counted from that end as we had a 10-year-old with COVID who died.
Talked to my doctors about it, did my research, and
What'd you talk about Chris about?
and I think they know what they're doing.
Just previewing the season, previewing the team. Kill the mic for a sec. So, yeah, are there any position battles still open? What was the other one? Oh, just breaking down the schedule. Looking forward to the trip to UCLA. Yeah.
See an accident? Report it at WBRZ Traffic on Twitter. Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 Toyo
Why?
light truck tires. Visit shawbillstire.com to learn more.
Complete collision. $7:55 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. No doubt that song was playing in Taylor's head this morning as he was just stuck on I-12 for phantom construction. If we find out that it was a matter of they finished construction and the guy whose job it is to take the barrels off the road just went home,
I am 95% sure that's what happened.
we don't know for certain.
But like it was like 2 Dodge Ram 1500s and 3 guys leaning up against the concrete barrier.
Right, but they just finished a whole night's work, man.
Yeah, but like,
Hey, where's the barrel guy? I don't know.
yeah,
You want to touch those barrels? Nope. Nope.
it's what it looked like.
It's a rough way to start a Monday.
Yeah.
If you were coming in from Livingston Parish earlier this morning. Got more stories from Livingston Parish and the rest of the surrounding area in the outside end coming up in 60 seconds. Got to tell you, though, about the folks over at Complete Collision Center, CompleteCollision.com. CompleteCollision.com. Love to send you to the website because you need to find out which location's closest to you. Plank Road in Zachary or Perkins right east of Bluebonnet in Baton Rouge. Let's start with this question. When you get into an accident and a body shop is being chosen, who's doing the choosing? Is it you or is it your insurance company? I can tell you if I'm in an accident, I want it to be me. Why? I want to be the customer. I want to be the customer. I don't want my insurance company to be the customer. I want to be able to say to the shop that's fixing my vehicle, I need OEM parts. I need it done safely. I need the hidden damage found. As opposed to running things through an insurance adjuster who has a deal hammered out with a body shop that gets you back out of the road quickly and cheaply. And that's their only concern. Because your family's safety isn't their concern. The insurance company's ongoing deal with them is their concern. This is why I recommend Complete Collision Center, CompleteCollision.com. CompleteCollision.com. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. All right. Every day we step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish to get into the surrounding area with a segment we call The Outside In. Starting off in West Feliciana Parish, a pilot who was found floating in the Mississippi River for 12 hours after his helicopter crash was released from a Baton Rouge hospital Saturday. West Feliciana Parish Sheriff's Office said the man was seen holding onto a propane bottle floating in the river near the mouth of Bayou Sarah Friday evening. Deputies launched a boat and rescued him. Authorities later identified the pilot as 62-year-old Victor Guillory of Lafayette. Deputies said Guillory explained he was flying the helicopter from Lafayette. The helicopter went down in the river around 4:45 a.m. Friday, approximately 45 minutes after taking off. He confirmed he was the only one in the aircraft when it crashed. As of the last report, that aircraft had yet to be located. Over to Iberville Parish, Louisiana is going to borrow up to $46 million to help cover the cost of building a new women's prison to replace facilities that were damaged 5 years ago in heavy flooding. State Bond Commission agreed without objection to the borrowing plan submitted by the State Corrections Department. That money will combine with other federal and state financing to pay for the full $114 million cost of the new facility in St. Gabriel. Next stop, Ascension Parish, a movie boasting a cast that includes Captain America himself, Anthony Mackie, is expected to start filming this week. Local officials told the Donaldson Chief production will begin as soon as today for the upcoming Netflix film We Have a Ghost. Aside from Mackie, who is a New Orleans native, the cast will include David Harbour, Jennifer Coolidge, Jolly Diallo Winston, and Tig Notaro. Cool stuff going on in Ascension Parish. And that's The Outside In, presented by BRPT Lake. BRPTLake.com is a website. Here comes CBS News.
Protect your retirement. Visit SafeMoneyPlan.net. It's 8 o'clock.
Hank Hill would say that's one of the best uses of propane.
Well, I tell you what, man. You better watch it right there. One of the most important things involving propane and propane accessories is safety. It is not to be used as a flotation device. Glad to hear he saved the propane and the propane saved him.
Yeah, that's Hank Hill. You know, I wonder if CBS News would ever cover like a fun news story. It just seems like regardless of what's going on, they find the worst possible story and they're like, here, let's play this 3 times a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's find 2 toddlers drowning. That'll get everybody's Monday started out on the right foot.
Yeah, we don't have any toddlers drowning. Anybody die in a fire?
Yeah, exactly. Like, let's find the worst stories and plug them in on a Monday. After this first segment, I'm going to let you go.
Well, after you get Blair on the phone.
You calling in?
Do you have the sound bites I sent you? Oh. Yeah. What did I say? Oh, yeah, the John Bell cuts. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. It's a good question about Ron DeSantis being able to overrule local school authorities. Because if the governor has ultimate rule over what schools do when it comes to masking in Louisiana, shouldn't the governor have ultimate rule over? Well, I guess it depends on your state constitution. Right.
But then again, is that something where it could be like Florida law is different than Louisiana law type of thing?
Right. If it depends on how your state constitution.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know.
First game of doubleheader. On that concrete this morning after it was poured overnight.
They would have given me the option. I'd have taken that lane.
The wet concrete lane?
For sure, I'm taking that lane.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 Toyo passenger light truck tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
I don't think so. There were trucks parked all along. I don't think it is not dry. I think you're right. I think they were waiting for the cone guy. Like, the cones were so far apart. I was like, guys, can I pull over? I can do this myself in like 20 minutes. Like, there's not that many of them.
Would have been nice.
I mean, they're not that heavy. There was like 50. I was like, you just drag them off to the side.
You know,
At least open one of the lanes. There was 2 of them closed.
if you time it out right, you can just clip them with your truck and they'll just bounce right off.
Yeah, I was like, run 'em
Except for
over.
the one that's got the sandbag under it, that'll hurt.
Yeah. I was like, we can move these. We get 3 guys on the interstate. We move this in 20 minutes.
.805 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP, hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you, Taylor Sharp producing. We're going to talk a little LSU football in our next segment. Final scrimmage was held Saturday. It's time to start gearing up for UCLA. Not this coming weekend. This is week 0. Next weekend will be week 1. LSU will be in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California to take on the Bruins. We're getting you to this day in history in just a minute, but I do have to follow up with a shout-out to the Little League team from Lafayette, Louisiana. Had this in the outside end and just straight up ran out of time. Lafayette's Little League team hung on to beat Pennsylvania 5-3 in an elimination game Saturday. Isaac Boudreaux for Louisiana got the win through 3 1/3 innings. He threw 6 strikeouts, only allowed 2 runs. Cooper Hawkins and Landon Kraft racked up multiple hits for Louisiana. Boy, everybody from Lafayette's just figuring out it would just be called Louisiana, although this time they're representing the whole state. So, cool, good on them. They both collected 2 hits. Hawkins brought in 2 runs. Kraft brought in 1. Lafayette's second elimination game is against Ohio. It is set for this afternoon, actually 4 p.m. 4 p.m. is when KATC out of Lafayette has the time listed. That game will air on ESPN2. All right, every day at this time, Taylor takes us back in time for this day in history.
Okay, Brian, we start in the year 79.
Just 79?
Yeah, you know, that was a good year for Chardonnay. So in the
Plain
year 79,
All right.
Mount Vesuvius erupts and destroys the city of Pompeii.
That was in a commercial recently.
That's probably because it happened.
The dad had to Google it, and, like, the commercial takes him back in time. And, like, he just shows up and everybody's running away from Mount Vesuvius. He's like, hey, what year is this?
Well, it was the year 79.
Darn right it was.
1617, the first one-way streets opened in London, England.
1617. So we went from, let's see.
79 to 1617.
So nothing happened for 1,538
No, I mean,
years.
I'm sure something
on this,
happened, but-
on this day.
Nothing of any significance.
On this day.
It's a quiet day.
Yeah.
1889, the first ship-to-shore wireless message occurs It was received in the U.S. from Lightship number 70 to a coastal receiving station at Cliff House in San Francisco.
Do we know what the message said?
Yeah, Sherman is sighted.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's the actual message.
Okay.
I don't know who Sherman is, but they spotted him.
Yeah.
1947, the first baseball Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Okay, now bear with me when I tell you these team names, okay?
Yeah.
These are the actual names. The Maynard Midgets
Yup.
beat the Lock Haven All-Stars 16-7.
Full disclosure, this was then, not current
That's the
terminology.
name of the team.
Yes.
Great name. 1985.
No.
1985. You remember Paul Hornung?
Yeah, of course.
Well, Paul Hornung was awarded $1.1 million by a Louisville court against the NCAA, who barred him as a college football analyst for betting on games. How dare they?
What?
He
Why
won that.
can't? Okay, good. Because, I mean, the analyst has no bearing in the outcome of the game.
Well, he won $1.1 million. On this day in 2005, one that's close to us, Hurricane Katrina forms over the Bahamas, later becoming a Category 5 hurricane.
Yep. Saw that one.
You're going to love this next one.
Oh, I bet.
In 2007, the hashtag was invented and first used in a tweet by U.S. product designer Chris Messina.
Really? So, you never think about the origin of the hashtag.
He created it.
Like, with the first guy that came out and said, I'm going to put a pound sign in front of this.
Yeah, I don't know why he named it a hashtag.
Pound sign. Yeah.
2008, star-studded American women's basketball team led by Lisa Leslie, Sue Bird, and Diana Taurasi win the gold medal at the Beijing Olympics, 92-65 over Australia. Went down to the wire.
92-65 in a gold medal game.
Went down to the wire.
Lisa Leslie, Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi. That's a heck of a lineup.
Solid team there.
Dream team.
Ready for some birthdays?
Wait, this day in 2010.
What do you have?
Oh, man. Elin divorced Tiger.
Okay.
Huh?
There you go.
How about it?
Right after the golf club incident.
Yup.
Birthdays.
Yes.
Kobe Bryant, born on this day in 1978.
Oh, wow. Okay. What?
Seth Curry, the lesser known of the Curry brothers, 31 years old.
Yeah.
Jeremy Lin, 33.
Lynn Sanity.
Remember when Lin Sanity was a thing for like 30 games?
It was.
Trace McSorley, NFL quarterback, 26 years old. Rick Springfield is 72.
Mm-hmm.
Jared Fogle, as in Subway's Jared.
It's a long O. Fogel.
Fogle, one of his many issues.
Yeah.
He's 43 years old today.
I've met him. There's a picture of, like, me and Matt Kennedy and him somewhere out there.
Well,
Because you can't delete the internet.
apparently not.
Well, he used to be the whole spokesperson for Subway.
No,
Did
I
the
remember.
American
I
Heart
remember
Walk
his
and
commercials.
everything, go making the rounds on all the radio stations. We're all taking pictures, and that lives forever.
Serial killer Henry Lee Lucas was born on this day in 1936.
Ooh.
River Phoenix in 1970.
Okay.
Shelley Long is 72 years old.
Oh, wow.
New Orleans Saints quarterback Taysom Hill, 31 years old today.
One of their quarterbacks, yes.
That's my guy there.
Uh-huh.
Cortez Kennedy. Why did I include that? He played college football at the University of Miami. Who was his defensive line coach?
That would be Mr. Ed Ogeron.
That was Coach Ed Orgeron, correct. National days.
Wait. I got one more for you on the birthdays.
Who you got?
The designated hitter. The very first designated hitter ever. Ron Blumberg, born on this day in 1948. It was in the I believe either 72 or 73 season where he became the first person to be a designated hitter in the American League. He was with the New York Yankees.
You know what that means?
What?
You had a terrible glove.
That's probably.
National days.
Oh.
It's buttered corn day.
Oh, God. All right.
Creamed corn days tomorrow.
Sure.
Cuban sandwich day.
Who doesn't butter their corn?
Crazy people.
That's what I'm telling you.
The ones that cream it.
Yeah. Well, I guess so.
It's Cuban sandwich day.
Love a Cuban.
Like the
sandwiches.
Okay. Hug your sweetheart day.
What?
Hug your sweetheart day.
All right.
National cheap flight day.
Huh?
I mean, all flights are kind of cheap right now.
Right?
National Ride the Wind Day.
I don't even know what that means.
Well, that's what today is. National Sponge Cake Day, which if you've ever had a sponge cake, it's weird that they dedicated a day to it.
Yeah, that's what I had on my days list was National Sponge Cake Day.
Brake Safety Week.
Okay.
It should be Brake Safely Week, but
Sure.
National Safe at Home Week.
Okay.
That applies
Being at home, like at your
Yeah.
house, at your domicile, or are we talking about like
your house.
Okay, like rounding third and being safe at home.
No,
as opposed to being called out.
Your house.
Okay.
And World Water Week.
Oh, fantastic.
That is your This Day in History.
Greatly appreciated as always. We are due up for a quick break. When we come back, it's time to talk a little LSU Tiger football. The scrimmages are over with. Time to focus on an actual opponent. That'll be the UCLA Bruins less than 2 weeks from right now. Voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair, joins us next. Yes.
Yeah, coming out of the break.
Michelangelo, a different view, is coming to the Raising Cane's River Center for the entire month of September. The Sistine Chapel is laid across the floor so that visitors can walk around the gigantic
Hey, Chris, you're going to go with Ryan?
view of Michelangelo's historic
Hold on, man. We're going to have you on in about 2 minutes.
or at Ticketmaster.com. Call 225-397-102
You
for
need
special
to, so.
pricing.
I would. All right, we'll have you in about 2 or 3 minutes. All right. Be prepared for a surprise question.
He's questioning me? Okay.
He said he was going to ask you, and I said he should. So.
And you're not going to give me a clue?
No, you'll pick up on it quick.
Okay.
It'd be funnier if you didn't know.
Okay. That's fair.
Nothing funny
It's
about
fair. Oh.
Literally coming down from the ceiling. Who do we call? Give me the number to the plumber. Who's their insurance with?
Okay, settle down. We're not calling anyone until we talk to Advantaclean.
When disaster strikes, whether it's water, mold, or fire, don't panic. Call Advantaclean. We'll assist you with reaching out to repairmen and guide you through dealing with the insurance company. Disaster fix. Go to ADVANTACLEAN.com and let the pros take it.
You're in Tiger Man.
What'd you play? Trumpet? You know Nick Ashton? He worked up here a little while. Ah, gotcha. Good dude. And you know he's a good dude because he's a St. Paul's Wolf. Did she really just say that?
Waiting for the concrete to dry. That's what I sat in traffic an hour for. Waiting for concrete to dry. You know they say, oh, it takes forever for paint to dry. Well, concrete takes longer.
But how do you break that down by the minute?
Why do you need that? Get some blow dryers out there.
But, like,
Going.
shouldn't there be, like, a 24-hour curing period or something? Like,
No.
guys.
No. The problem, she's around all this. They kicked her around and waited too late to do it. That's
Right.
all this boys going to do. Regardless of what the issue was, they waited too late to do it.
yes.
I don't care. Still mad about it.
8:17, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. The countdown is on. We're officially in week 0. There will be college football played this week. In fact, LSU's first opponent is going to play this week. We're done with scrimmages. It's time to start looking at another opponent. It's time to welcome in voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair, to get us ready for the 2021 season. Voice, how are you, man?
I'm good, Brian. Fired up, man. I can't believe, you sit around, you can't wait for college football, and to your point, here we go, week 0. About to crank it up.
I mean, I was like legit going to wait until next week to call you, but this is how impatient I am with this. I want to start talking about it now because there's a lot to look forward to this season.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting season. I mean, a lot of I think about when the polls came out, which I think you and I've talked about it before. Maybe one of the more useless things, but it gives us a chance to talk about it. I just think the excitement of where LSU is considered on the national landscape. Considering the difficult year that was 2020, I think they're in a good spot because I think they're going to surprise some people, and I think it gets that chip back on their shoulder that, really helped create what we all enjoyed in 2019 through that 2017 and 2018 season. So I get the sense that's kind of the feeling around this coaching staff and this team, and I like that role of being the hunter as opposed to the hunted.
Absolutely, yes, and it'd be nice to get into that role full swing. Hey, you mentioned 2020, and it's looking back on it. Is it fair to say that 2020, because of the way 2019 played out, 2020 hit LSU a little bit harder than it did other schools?
I guess, I hate to say that because you are automatically accused of, well, you're just on the inside and you're too close to LSU, and of course you had it worse than everybody else. I do believe that, Coach Ogeron's been very open about, here's some things maybe we could have done better, and here's some things we've already done to get better. And then, of course, you can argue till you're blue in the face, but there were a lot of things that hit coming off 2019 and really replacing all the skill athletes. And that's ultimately what O has talked about you don't want to have to do. I mean, he's been talking about that since the day he got hired, that you have to be able, in this day and age, especially at LSU, to reload, not rebuild. But when you look at, who would have known coming off that 2019 season that, obviously guys had a chance to go to the NFL draft, and everybody's excited they did so. But then you had some key opt-outs because of the pandemic. Then you had to not only worry about getting a football team ready to play, I mean, you were on a daily schedule of making sure there were going to be players available to play. I just think it was a perfect storm that, LSU started because of the success and some of the turnover. I think they started a little farther behind when all of the things hit. But, I think we all could be accused of saying, oh, of course you're going to say LSU had it worse than everybody else. The positive of that is that I thought the back end of the season, you finally got the guys who said, I'm committed to playing for LSU. I'm committed to following Coach O's lead. And, you ended on an uptick.
Yeah, with the wins at Florida and then against the wins versus Florida and Ole Miss to end the season. And that Ole Miss game, incidentally enough, with the toughest job of making the roster work when it came to COVID restrictions, violations, or not restrictions and quarantines and whatnot. That played out to be tougher than ever, but the team showed resilience in that, and you build momentum going into the offseason. Let's set the table for 2021. Are there any remaining position battles? Whoop, are you there?
Well, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, no, I think that's when you come into spring football and then you get set for fall camp and you're talking about these position battles, I think that's a good thing. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind that says, hey, we're trending in the right direction because there's some guys that have to battle out. Obviously, the quarterback one was the premier battle to be that wouldn't happen due to the unfortunate injury of Miles Brennan. And now I think the key is, and the good news is, I think that it became, okay, it's going to be Max Johnson and Miles Brennan pushing each other. Now that Max has kind of been handed the football, can you get that same type of competition from the freshman Garrett Nussmeier? And having seen these guys in action in the preseason scrimmages, I think you are getting that, which I think, again, is going to benefit LSU down the road. I think the running back room, unfortunately, has been hit with, injury issues, and you haven't been able to have really all four of the guys you want to look at going at it and seeing who's going to rise to the top. But the silver lining is you've seen some of the younger guys, the two freshman running backs, who have been impressive in their own right. Looking back to this past Saturday, you had both sides of the ball really have their moments. The first week, Coach O was pretty clear about it. Defensive won the day. And he had talked about how the week leading up to that, the offense had a lot of success. I think we saw some of that this past Saturday, which was a good sign, considering you had a bunch of guys out on the offensive line. You had both of your returning running backs were not there. A number of the key receivers, including Kayshon Boutte, was not in the lineup. But you saw a chance for some younger guys to show what they can do, and they certainly did so. And then on the defensive side, I mean, you're really playing without your full array of defensive backs. The good news, again, is you kind of know what you're getting with Stingley and Ricks. You just want to get them back healthy and get them back out there. You trust what they do on the field. And then from an offensive line standpoint, you just need those guys back because you're going to need some depth. This is an offense now that wants to run 75, 80 plays a game. That takes a lot. That's a toll on an offensive front. You got to have everybody ready to go, and you got to have a little rotation to give some guys a breather.
Sticking with that offensive line for just a second, because while a lot of the offseason emphasis has been put on re-upping the offense or recreating the 2019 offense, that's got to start up front. And we have a lot of returning starters, we meaning LSU, a lot of returning starters coming back. The expectation from the fan standpoint, the time it's going to take for them to truly mature into what they should be? What should fans be looking for there?
Well, I think Saturday, again, because you didn't have two of your key starting offensive linemen, or what we expect to be two starting offensive linemen, that, it was a mixed bag. Mm-hmm. And, when people talk about skill positions for LSU, they've never had a lack of those. And that certainly is the case this year, including your quarterbacks, albeit young. Max has got a little bit of experience. Nussmeier has no fear, which is as a freshman, it's a good and can be a bad thing. But you'd rather it be that way than the opposite. So the offensive line to me is key. And in the first scrimmage this year, preseason scrimmage, Max nor Garrett had time to even look up, much less make a play. And on Saturday, the times when they were given time in the pocket, or even had to move the pocket a little bit or improvise, as long as they were still in control, they made plays, and they got the ball to receivers. It was great to watch them go down the field vertically. It was great to see both young quarterbacks check down to their running backs and turn something into, a 5 to 10 to 12-yard game. And that is all predicated on this offensive line. So I'm not sure yet if in the first two preseason scrimmages you can say the offensive line is going to be good or the offensive line is going to be bad. And that simply goes back to having full personnel healthy and ready to go. But the good news is, if they can hold, if they can get back to some semblance of what they looked like in 2019, you've got the playmakers outside and taking snaps that can put some points on the board.
And then there's this other X factor, is that we don't know how good LSU's offensive line is till we see them play against another team's defense, because all reports are the defensive front for LSU is looking strong.
Yeah, that's the other part of it. Walking away from Tiger Stadium on Saturday, talking to people, leaving, it was basically, can we really put our finger on the problems up front offensively, or are we really did we forget that, wow, LSU's defense can be really dynamic and make plays? Because, you look at the defensive ends, we were keeping track of whether it was Ali Gay, whether it was B.J. Ojulari, the young kid, name escapes me here, Mason
Smith.
You know it, Brian.
Yeah, Mason Smith.
6'6", almost 300 pounds, and he looked like a gazelle out there. You watch him, and then when you actually break down the play and you get to see it, you think, well, I don't know that the offense did so bad, or maybe this defense is pretty sporty. The great news is they line up, they know where they're going to be. There's communication going on as soon as the previous play is dead. They're set up and they're ready to go, and I think that's a big credit to Durante Jones that, it's now we've got the players. Let's put them in places to be successful. They don't need to be guessing where they need to be. They don't need to wonder where their responsibilities are. We just got to get them out there and then let them loose. And when they get loose, this defense, I think that's probably what people are going to notice. At least my expectation, Brian, is that on September 4th in Pasadena, people are actually going to say this defense is light years from what we saw a year ago.
Absolutely, no doubt. So you got a lot of turnover in personnel, coaching personnel on both sides of the football. Those things will play out on the field. We got about 3 minutes left with Voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair. Chris, I got to shift gears here because I've got one that I've been dying to ask you. Pasadena, California, the Rose Bowl. As a play-by-play guy, how much of a bucket list item is this for you?
It's up there. When you grow up watching college football, and you see the Rose Bowl, and it's the granddaddy of them all. It's America's stadium, they say. just the history that's been played there. You're hoping that when we get there in a couple of weeks, that it does have the feeling in the same way that I can't wait to get back to Tiger Stadium with 100,000 strong. Last year was great to play football. I was very thankful to be calling football a year ago based on what was going on. But let's admit it just wasn't the same at Tiger Stadium. And so you hope you get some of that when you go to this Rose Bowl. Everybody has warned me, friends of mine who are in the business, said, it's a great place, great venue, but hey, the press box is, it's kind of dated. It's not, with the modern accoutrements, so to speak. And I'm like, really? That's going to be the last thing on my mind. It's going to be cool to be sitting there watching the action from that type of venue, and hopefully watching the Tigers, get off to an incredible start and a big statement victory. Because I think this game for both the Bruins and certainly for the Tigers, set the tone in a big way. The first game's always big, but this one, I think, where both teams are coming from, UCLA struggling last year, but in a lot of those games and just not able to close the deal, and then LSU starting out with so many question marks and then finishing strong. I think they make a major statement to the rest of the college football world based on how this game goes.
Got 1 minute left with Chris Blair. Actually, Chris, before I get you out of here, Taylor says you had a question for me before you went.
Yeah, I was just listening. I listened to you guys in my car line, and I just did not realize you and Jared were buddies. That seemed off. I didn't know that.
I should not have been taking a sip of water for that. No. Okay, so everybody in this business is guilty of this, Chris. Every single person, because he used to be the spokesperson for Subway, and every year they do the American Heart Walk, and he would come up here and make the rounds. Condon's got a picture with him. Everybody from 104.5's got a picture with him. Me, I got a picture.
Now you're throwing everybody else under the bus.
Oh, no. There's room for all of us under this bus, Chris. Definitely.
Well, you know how you can avoid that is, take my motto. Don't take pictures. I don't take pictures.
You know what? That's fair. That's fair. I could definitely adopt that one for sure. He is Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers. I'm still debating whether or not I want to catch a Ordinelli once you're in the Rose Bowl on Saturday after next, but we are looking forward to the call, sir.
Yeah, who knows, man? It might sneak out subconsciously. It might just happen.
If you get Doug to do it, I think we're all just drinking on the spot at that point.
All right, guys.
We'll see you in a couple weeks. You too, Chris. Good talking to you, man. Here comes CBS News. Hey, if you There's a firefight at the Kabul airport. Although CBS keeps calling it Kabul Airport, and I want to call Michael Kabul and be like, "Why is there a firefight at your airport?" It's Kabul. That's, right. I've always thought it was Kabul. But Kabul. Damn it, Kabul! Tighten up your airport. I mean, it was 7:30 before they wrapped up. If you're running even the...
Her sister's a teacher. She goes, "You sit in that traffic?" I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "And you made it on time?" I was like, "Nope." She said her sister was in traffic. It was a 2-hour delay between them and Millerville by that point. So it doubled.
Yeah, fortunately, you got in ahead of time. Like,
Oh, it was.
but
I checked the map when I was driving. It was backed up all the way to Walker. I didn't get in until I got to Denham.
yeah.
So, and then when you
That...
get to weather, it's already up. Weather's at 30 already. And then remember, this is what we have this thing. And he'll call for it. He'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. Whatever order.
Get to know us before you call.
But yeah, she got caught in it too.
Welcome back. We missed you. We know it's been tough. Because rebuilding your business isn't for the
Is this not charging? Why is it? Oh, because it's down. It's frayed down to nothing over here.
Symmetrical speed fiber for retail business. Revved up data speeds at 30% off. Plus, months free. We're glad you're back. And we're here to make your business surge. Retail business. Offer valid on 3-year contract for 2 or more businesses.
Well, that ain't doing nothing.
The moment you fire up a Gator UTV, the engine has your full attention. The completed job.
When it gets to this will play, and then once you get to local segment, hit the weather already.
Just like that. You made
So it'll when it goes to local segment, see where it says local show segment?
UTV. With effortless
Yeah.
four-wheel drive at the
Your
flip
hands are back. Yeah.
shifting
That's like us coming back. So when it gets to that, that's when you play the weather, fall music, whatever, and then he comes back.
So that's just gonna roll with.
Yep.
This is just all silence.
Yep. Once you get to local segment, it's that's it.
All right, you got cuts 1 through 4 ready to roll. 1 through 5, excuse me. Cool.
And then that'll be you'll turn YouTube. So after weather, keep that on so that they can hear the cuts.
on Baton Rouge's talk leader. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP.
Play your favorite casino games and sports bet for free. Visit betrivers.net. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Take a deeper dive into the stories that are important to you with a Fox News Rundown. Weekday mornings at 9 on Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk. From the WBRZ
There you go, sir.
Heat advisory has been issued again today for heat index values that are set to climb to near 100
So you just hit one of those
this
bolts to your
afternoon.
left.
Be sure to drink plenty of water and
No,
take
like to your
frequent
left.
breaks while in the
And that
sun
plays out of here.
outside. A few showers will move through this afternoon for areas north and east of Baton Rouge. Any showers that do come out will only
Is there another charger floating around somewhere?
overnight temperatures will be in the mid-70s. Tuesday will be a near repeat of Monday with afternoon temperatures in the low 90s and the heat index in the triple digits.
Stay connected to WBRZ weather on air on WBRZ.com, our apps, social media, and
No, I don't want to check that out.
Haven't seen it.
All right, no worries. I'm almost out of juice, and we've got the Zoom conference or Teams conference. 8:38 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Thanks again to the voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair, for hopping on board, previewing LSU versus UCLA. Coming up, not this Saturday, is week 0. LSU will not be playing this week. UCLA, however, will. But previewing LSU, UCLA coming up next weekend, which, yeah, I'm just impatient. I got to get there. Like, let's get us there. This has dragged on for so long. offseason, that is. Coming off a 5-5 year where you opted not to go to a bowl game. Coming off of a year where, I mean, everything played opposite of what would go in the Tigers' favor last year. From opt-outs to shortened practices to quarantines to the works. So I appreciate Chris Blair hopping on. We will have no shortage of previews of the upcoming season as the next 2 weeks wear on, counting us down to kickoff. All right, let's shift the focus back to COVID-19. Governor John Bel Edwards held his weekly press conference Friday afternoon. Included in that press conference is, he covered a lot of ground. Dr. Cantor talked as well. I want to put the focus on three different things here. Number one of the things that's been followed with the Delta variant is the age of those who are contracting COVID. We'll get into that in a minute. One of the things that has been talked about a lot but has not come out in any official standpoint has been treatments once you contract COVID. We'll talk about that in a minute. But there's also a third part of this that we'll get to as well, and that is acknowledging progress where progress happens. Let's push pause on those three things. Let the governor set the table. Friday, when he hit the podium, as he does at the beginning of every press conference, gives out the latest numbers. This is the numbers as of Friday.
We continue to report astronomical numbers of cases across the state of Louisiana. Today, 5,922 new cases of COVID being reported. And very sadly, we're also reporting 67 new deaths across the state of Louisiana. We currently have 2,999 individuals hospitalized with COVID-19 around the state. This is the second day in a row that we haven't set a new record. And in fact, we've had very, very small decreases. We basically have been flat over the last couple of days. And of course, that's a glimmer of good news anyway, and we'll certainly take it after those 16 days of new records.
16 straight days where the number of people in the hospital went up. Then 2 straight days that took it from, 3,050-ish back down to 2,999. Maybe it was 3,020-ish back down to 2,999. So we were one under 3,000 heading into the weekend. Of course, they don't keep count over the week, or they don't report numbers on Saturdays or Sundays. So when today's numbers come out right around noon, be ready for it. Be ready for it. This will be a pretty decent indicator as to whether or not we are on our way to a trend when it comes to the Delta variant. Today's reports will be a pretty decent indicator as to whether or not the 2 days we saw to end last week turn into 5 days. Because remember, Saturday, Sunday, they'll be reporting on Monday. So if 2 jumps up to 5, we're still not at a trend yet, but we're a lot further down the road towards that trend with today's numbers. That being said, I'm fully bracing myself for them to beam back up. 5,922 cases reported on Friday. Those numbers are going to remain up for quite some time. It is worth noting that at the last time it was reported, 91% of COVID hospitalizations are unvaccinated or not fully vaccinated. That's an important determining factor. Not fully vaccinated at 91%. So that was just setting the table with the numbers. Now let's get into the different themes that we wanted to address from Friday's press conference, one of which we talked about in our Medical Monday segment earlier. COVID's Delta variant is hitting people younger than the original disease, the original variants, as it were. Governor John Bel Edwards, cut to if you would, talks about how younger people are getting it this time around.
One of the things that's very different about this current surge and the cases that we're seeing that are a result of the Delta variant, which, by the way, practically 100% of our cases today in Louisiana are of the Delta variant. The last time we measured it was over 96%, I believe. So that's what we're talking about. But the cases that we're seeing in children, 0 to 18, is very troubling. I can tell you that for the last couple of days, 28% of all the new cases that we're reporting, 28% are in children, 0 to 17.
Now, there's a lot to unpack from that. First of all, before we get to the age part of this, I do want to address the fact that he said it's just about everybody has the Delta variant this time around. In fact, it's so widespread that I forget if we were talking to, I forget which hospital outfit we were talking with from Baton Rouge, whether it was the Lake, General, or Ochsner. But a couple weeks ago, they said it's so much with everyone having the Delta variant that they stopped testing for the Delta variant. So the governor said as of last check, which would lead me to believe that they're not testing every patient to see which variant they have, which is a little bit concerning when it comes to the next variant, honestly. I get it if everybody right now or everybody over the last month has been in with the Delta variant, but how do you know when Lambda's hitting hold unless you're still testing for the Delta variant? So hopefully the sampling they have, hopefully what they take away from this is they'll be able to stay ahead of the next variant before it takes a hold the way Delta did so rampantly. Now, back to the age of those who have it. When we talked with Our Lady of the Lake back in our Medical Monday segment last hour, we were told the number of people going through the ER at Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital or Our Lady of the Lake is 10 times what it was just 2 months ago when it comes to children. So as schools are getting back in, I'm expecting those overall numbers to bump up, simply because with kids being back in school, you will have more opportunities to test kids. The more opportunities you have to test kids, the more likely you are to find positive cases.
During the week of August 9th through the 15th, a total of 2,444 COVID-19 cases were reported among K through 12 students and staff. Now, this is reporting that's coming from schools. And so more cases were reported by Louisiana schools during the first week of this school year than were reported in any week of last school year. And more cases were reported in the first week of this school year than were reported in the aggregate of the first 2 months of last year.
It's kind of a ridiculous number. I mean, when looked at by itself, it is kind of a ridiculous number to have that big of a disparity from last year to this year. But that being said, we've been told this for over a month now. The Delta variant is hitting different. The Delta variant is spread faster. That being said, what's going to be interesting to see it play out, and I hesitate to do this because it sounds so inhumane. It's going to be interesting to see it play out. The more widespread it is, the percentage of those going to the hospital is going to naturally go down. The more widespread it is, the survival rate is likely going to go up, provided you have that many more people testing. Now, that should in no way, shape, or form detract from the severity of it. But we've been trained over the last 18 months to follow numbers, and that's what the numbers are going to more than likely spell out before it's all said and done. Shifting from the age of those getting it to treating it. Up until now, up until very recently, I should say, all the talk has been mask and vaccine, mask and vaccine, mask and vaccine. Well, what about treating it early on to maybe reduce the number of people taking up hospital beds for an extended period of time? Governor John Bel Edwards, to his credit, made significant mention of this in Friday's press conference.
Before I turn it over to Dr. Canner, I did want to talk a little bit about monoclonal antibodies because that's receiving a lot of attention here and around the country. There's been a lot of focus on it this week, and I think that's a good thing because people need to know what their treatment options are. This treatment helps to preserve hospital capacity because it is effective in preventing the disease from progressing to the point where someone needs to be hospitalized. It is not 100%. It is not a silver bullet, but the monoclonal antibody infusion, if received very shortly after someone tests positive and develops symptoms, it can prevent that disease from getting to the point where they need to be hospitalized. If you get it, the later you get it relative to symptom onset, the less likely it is going to be effective.
Couple things here. First of all, there is no silver bullet. The governor says this is not a silver bullet. Yeah, there is no such thing as a silver bullet when it comes to COVID-19. It is a, if you'll pardon the overuse of the expression, a holistic approach. Are you taking all the other mitigation measures ahead of time? Are you vaccinated? All these things can help reduce the number of people in the hospital. It is a holistic approach. Are you getting outside more often? Are you making sure you're remaining healthy in every other aspect of your life to keep your, extenuating medical circumstances down? Comorbidities? Are you doing what you need to do to help yourself out in every other regard? There is no one silver bullet. There is no catch-all that says, take this magic pill, plant these magic beans, Jack. There's no such thing here. Now, another part of this that I think is worth mentioning is the fact that the governor mentioned it. Because this is just another factor in the fight against COVID. But you're talking about introducing treatments and sharing the treatments with the public who, a large chunk of them refuse to get vaccinated. Wouldn't this give everyone who refuses to get vaccinated another gun in their arsenal for a reason not to get vaccinated? I tell you what, we're going to have to pick it up on the backside of the break. We got Your Money Now coming your way. We're going to check traffic one more time. Then we'll close it out next, right here on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk in Baton Rouge. No, I'm of no use to anyone.
And then that plays for 2 minutes. So it's 52. See where it stops up. Hit the play button there. And then we'll come back in.
Let me try and open it one more time. All right, well, there's no recent comments anyway, so we're good. What do flight attendants think? I would imagine so. I don't understand buying a plane ticket and then going off on having to wear a mask on the plane. It's not a surprise. You knew when you purchased your ticket what you would have to do. In fact, you sign off on it. No, not even close. Not even close. Do what?
I was looking at pictures of LSU football over the weekend. It showed Ed Ingram tackling a dummy. And I was like, why are you doing that?
Why is he doing that?
He's an offensive lineman. He does that. It's a penalty.
Right.
Huh. Ed Ingram.
Morning, Bo.
So he's like full on tackling, and I was like, why are you doing that?
Is that Ingram?
Yeah, it's Ingram.
I mean, he's also not just tackling a dummy, but he's hitting him low.
Good hit.
So apparently the secret to the 2019 offense was the biggest guy in the field chop blocking. Still got cut 5 to get to. I haven't forgotten about it. And I haven't done Baton Rouge Mattress yet. Did you see Baton Rouge Mattress in the log?
It's always the last thing.
Okay. I'm going to do Baton Rouge Mattress on the way back in. Okay.
Oh, he'll just do it during the second. Yeah, you don't need to do it. Yeah, well, he'll just do it when we come back in for break.
Saw Mitch Kimball over the weekend. Said another listener came in last week. Batting about 2 per week right now. Last week was slow. Last week was only 1.
Yeah, I went into all the studios and there was none. There's one in the ESPN studio upstairs.
Hey, it's in now. I mean, yeah, I'll take it. Went to a shrimp and crab boil yesterday. My gosh, that was fun. Yeah. So, but same. I like crabs better than all of them, but there's so much work to go into it. Although I cut the shit out of my thumb on a crab. Like, can we like?
Yeah, we did crabs one time, and I was like,
it's a lot of work. It's worth it though.
crab cake somewhere better.
Yeah, it is a lot of work. I thoroughly enjoy crabs. The there's a connection to my childhood with my dad and I used to have. My dad had a boat, and we had crab traps throughout Lake Pontchartrain, like running along the causeway, and we'd go out there every Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. Yeah. So we but the friend that was the friend that hosted the boil has a swimming pool, and I've determined for the rest of my life, after every boil, I want to go swimming, because it didn't, like, it was gone. You're in the pool for like an hour afterwards, you know, all prune hands.
It's almost 9 o'clock.
Yeah, but it was that last hour of.
It was like that. It was like that at 5:30. It was like that at 5:15 this morning. It's still like that. It's 9 o'clock.
Yeah. You want to close things off 8 p.m. Friday night and start then, you know, or 10 p.m. Friday night, whatever. They did.
They couldn't get that done in 7 hours.
Drying concrete that's thick enough to be an interstate. $8:56, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. One segment to go here on Mornings with Brian Haldane. Thanks again to Ashley Frugier for that latest traffic report. Boy, DOTD is going to take some lumps today. That's so rough. My apologies if you're still stuck on I-12. It's been a rough go of it all morning long, and my guess is that will continue well beyond the designated morning drive. So stick with it. We'll have the Fox News rundown for you next hour, so there'll be no shortage of content right here to keep you going throughout your drive. Hey, we're going to dive back into what the governor had to say on Friday in just a minute. But I do have to tell you about the folks over at Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. Ran into Mitch Kimball over the weekend. Side note, shout out to Israel. Israel's a listener to this show. Shout out to Israel for swinging by the Florida Boulevard location, getting himself a king-size cooling gel mattress, getting himself an adjustable base, and yes, got himself a heck of a deal for mentioning he heard about it right here on Talk 107.3 FM. 4065 Florida Boulevard is the Mid-City location. 18181 Jefferson Highway. It's the corner of Jefferson and Houcheteux. That's their location in the southeastern corner of the parish. Labor Day deals are on their way. I'm not going to run down all of them right now because it's only 60 seconds before I have to move back on. Labor Day deals are on their way. Financing deals are on their way. And as always, if you mention you heard about it right here, you do get free delivery. All right, back to what the governor had to say on Friday. And was cut off by Your Money Now there before finishing my thought on shout out to the governor for mentioning monoclonal antibody treatments. Because if you have people that are completely against getting vaccinated, they're a big no. And you tell them, hey, even if you're not vaccinated, boom, the second you test positive, come get this, it'll make it better. You're giving them another gun in the arsenal to not get vaccinated. Nonetheless, though, it is progress when it comes to treatment, and the governor brings it to you every Friday. One other note about that is that if you're completely against the vaccine because it's not FDA approved, it's only emergency use authorization, it should be noted that the monoclonal antibody treatments are also emergency use authorization. So to say no to one but yes to the other because of the very same reason, hard-pressed to get on board with that. One more from the governor, and I do like to acknowledge when he acknowledges progress.
We are no doubt in a very difficult place. I am gratified that for the first time in a long time we could come in here and tell you that our percent positivity has decreased very slightly. that for the last couple of days, the number of people in hospitals have decreased very slightly, that we are no longer leading the nation in terms of our growth rate in cases over the previous 7 days relative to population. But I also know that this is just a couple of 3 days. It's not yet a trend, and that the disease burden in this state, in every single community of this state, the number of COVID inpatients in every region of our state is unacceptably high.
And we will continue to follow it. Today's numbers are going to be big because it will have the full weekend within it. That's going to do it for us. Fox News Rundown's coming your way next, followed by Brian Kilmeade. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Here comes CBS News on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk.